Employers are done with the nonsense, and the EEOC is booked, busy, and collecting checks like it's tax season. Welcome to the Notorious.tv, your home for all things scandalous, eccentric, and over the top. Today, I'm launching a brand new series that we will appropriately call Employers Behaving Badly. Because after the Morgan Fox FedEx case blew up, it became very clear that you guys love a good corporate takedown. In this series, we'll celebrate workers getting their bag, and we'll also roast the corporations who absolutely earned these lawsuits. Think of it like a celebration of workers who stood up, spoke out, filed charges, and walked away with checks, justice, or both. And if you're dealing with discrimination or retaliation at work, you are not alone. Let's talk about it. Employers are out here behaving like laws do not apply to them. So much so that the EEOC recovered $660 million for workers in fiscal year 2025. Of the $660 million recovered, $528 million was forked over before litigation, which is a new record for the agency. There were more than 90,000 new discrimination charges, which is up 3.4%. And most importantly, 96.5% of cases had favorable outcomes in district court resolutions. So yeah, workers are filing, workers are winning, and employers are still out here acting like the Civil Rights Act is a suggestion. And 2026 is shaping up to be quite a busy year for the EEOC. Let's get into the mess. If you're still here, you clearly love a good psychological spiral. Subscribe, I promise more chaos with context. First up, Chicago's Admiral Theater, a strip club that apparently thought customer service meant that the customers can touch the dancers like they're on display at Build-A-Bear. According to the EEOC, customers were allowed to frequently engage in unwanted touching. Black dancers had different appearance standards, and they were also given limited stage time and subjected to racial slurs. And the club fired a worker who asked for sexual assault awareness training. The strip club settled the case for $200,000, which honestly, I'm surprised it wasn't more considering we had sexual harassment, race allegations, and retaliation all wrapped up into one pretty little package. But after it was settled, the EEOC dropped the line of the year. It said, choosing to work as an adult entertainer does not constitute consent to harassment at work. The nightclub now has to post a sign saying, don't touch the dancers, and they have to also create a deny entry list for repeat harassers and discipline security who ignore complaints. Good. And if you thought that was bad, buckle up, because our next employer said, what if we ignored every harassment complaint and then punished the victim for good measure? This is what happened at DHL, where a female employee told 3 supervisors that she was being harassed and simply asked not to be left alone with the man who was harassing her. All 3 supervisors said, anyways, and turned a blind eye. And then DHL fired the employee for insubordination because she refused to meet with the harasser alone. Imagine punishing someone for not wanting to be cornered by the person who they reported. Imagine that. Other women at DHL confirmed the harassment, and the company ignored all of it. This misconduct cost DHL $640,000, to which I say, hell yeah. The company must also train managers, train HR, and train supervisors, as well as review surveillance footage and have corporate leadership attend training. And as much as I wish I could say that this was the first time DHL was in the news for illegal employment practices, it's just not the case. Back in 2024, the company paid $8.7 million to settle a long-running race discrimination lawsuit because Black workers were subjected to less favorable working conditions. Like, for example, they were disproportionately assigned to delivery routes in neighborhoods with higher crime rates. They didn't learn their lesson then, but hopefully they've learned their lesson now. And speaking of blatant racism, let's talk about the DEI case at Planned Parenthood that proves discrimination can hit anyone. This one's important because it busts a myth. Yes, white employees can be discriminated against. Title VII protects everyone. The EEOC found that Planned Parenthood segregated employees by race, forced staff into race-segregated affinity caucuses, held DEI sessions where white employees were told things like, "You are white and do not feel racism the same way that non-white patients feel." EEOC Chair Andrea Lucas said that Title VII guarantees equal treatment for every employee. Those protections equally apply to white workers. Planned Parenthood paid $500,000 to settle the suit, as it should. Now let's move from DEI chaos to pandemic chaos, because our next employer said, civil rights during COVID? Never heard of her. This $15 million case involves a tech giant, and this one's extra juicy because as part of the settlement, the company cannot be named, which means that the comment section is about to turn into a conspiracy theory potluck, or at least I hope so. The EEOC says that the company denied religious and disability-based vaccine exemptions, violated Title VII and the Americans with Disabilities Act, and must now pay $15 million. And the quote that deserves a dramatic zoom in: "There was no pandemic exception to worker civil rights and liberties." So which tech giant was it? Leave your guesses and inside information below. And while we're on the topic of employers making terrible decisions for absolutely no reason, let's talk about Walmart, because of course Walmart is here. Before Walmart ate its words and dished out $60,000, their managers really said, let's take away the accommodations that were working perfectly for a disabled employee and then fire them when they struggle. The worker in question had hearing, speech, and cognitive impairments, and she had accommodations which worked. New management came in and they were like, nah, we're good. And then they fired her for insubordination. Like, imagine removing someone's wheelchair ramp and then firing them for not climbing the stairs fast enough. It's absurd. And for those of you who are not savvy with employment rights, if you have a disability that's covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act, then you can request reasonable accommodations. And your employer has to grant accommodations that do not pose an undue hardship on the company. So that's what was going on at Walmart, and they paid the price. And finally, let's talk about the company that apparently thought being over 40 disqualified you from having a job. Enterprise Rent-A-Car paid $1.8 million after the company was busted for age discrimination. The EEOC found that 15% of applicants were 40 and over, but they made up less than 3% of hires. 125 witnesses said that they were asked their age or graduation year. 125 witnesses. That's more than a pattern, you guys. That's a lifestyle. Every one of these workers stood up for their rights and they won. If you're dealing with discrimination, retaliation, harassment, or shady HR practices in the workplace, you are not alone. And you deserve safety, dignity, and a workplace that follows the law. And if you can relate, dump your toxic workplace trauma in the comments. And if you want me to talk about your situation on a future episode of Employers Behaving Badly, submit your workplace horror story anonymously at thenotorious.tv. This has been Employers Behaving Badly, where we celebrate the workers, roast the corporations, and remind everyone that the EEOC stays booked, busy, and winning.